Hi, I'm Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and you are watching Mad Knitting. This is my YouTube channel where I nerd out about knitting and other crafty things and connect with other people on the internet. You can find me on Ravelry as madtownmama, on Bluesky as madtownmama, and Instagram as madtown_mama. That name is because I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I am a mom to two kids, one in college, one still in high school, and I live here with my family. And as of today, it's my last day working from home. Just a little bit of personal news. I am changing jobs. So for almost the last 4 years, I have been working from home for a nonprofit. And starting in a couple weeks, I will be starting a new job that is fully on site. And it's just going to be a little different. So I don't know when I will be able to sit down and record because I won't have the same flexibility with that new job as I have with this one. But I'm still enjoying this, and I'm still going to be knitting a lot. Maybe not at work so much. I don't know yet. So I will do what I can to keep posting videos. I do want to say that sometimes it feels a little weird to put yourself out there on the internet, at least for me, even though I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I was a blogger in the mid-aughts when my children were very tiny, and I've been on Instagram for a long time. I've been on Ravelry ever since it was in beta version in 2007. I've been on YouTube for a few years now, and it still feels weird when like my internet life and my offline life collide. It shouldn't feel weird because it's been so long, and there's a whole generation of people who have grown up knowing nothing else. But I'm Gen X. I was born in the late 70s. So there's still just like part of me that wants to think of these things as totally separate. So the reason I'm saying this is because, every once in a while, somebody will find me online who knows me in real life in some other capacity. Or sometimes I will know people online. Like, I have actual friends that I have met like through Ravelry or Instagram that I have actually met in person. And it's kind of a surreal experience, and it's always been really nice. But it has got me thinking recently about like how we present ourselves online versus how we present ourselves in real life. I like to think of myself as being very consistent across that. Like, I don't try to put on some kind of false persona, although there are some things that I keep very personal and keep to myself. So I don't know what that's like for somebody who's like followed me online and then like meets me in real life much later, after a while. And if that feels different or not. I will say, in case you notice what I'm wearing, this t-shirt says the Yarniacs podcast. And this is what's got me thinking about this, because the Yarniacs is a podcast that's been going for like well over 10 years. The hosts, Gail and Charlene, are like knitting besties who have been creating episodes every other week for a really long time. They've created this wonderful online community on Ravelry through their group, and some people in the group for the last couple of years have organized an actual like retreat where for 2 or 3 days you can go spend like a whole weekend with other knitters and crafters and just hang out and get to know them. Like people that have met online for the most part. Some of them like have met in real life or whatever, but people who basically know each other through this podcast and through this online community, getting together in person. And it's really cool. So I did not go last year. It was not a time or place that worked for me. But this year, the organizers picked a location that was only a couple hours away from me. We met in Racine, Wisconsin, so it was really easy for me to get there. I didn't have to fly anywhere or whatever. And yeah, it was like one of those major worlds colliding moment. Like all these people that I have seen posting online or had conversations with in some way or another online that I got to meet in person. And it was really great. And I also got to meet, of course, Gail and Charlene, who are the impetus for all of this, whose podcast has created this wonderful community. And in this case, they were just in real life like I expected them to be. Like the way they talk on their podcast, the way they relate to each other and talk about knitting and talk about other things, like totally came through. So it was great. I forgot to add that one of my favorite parts of the retreat was that another attendee and also one of the planners, whose name is Carol, found out several months before we met at the retreat center that they have a piano on the premises, and she asked if I would be willing to play some duets with her. So, in case you don't know, I am a professional musician. I have several graduate degrees in music performance and pedagogy, and I did that for a long time before I had a career change. And she studied piano growing up and was looking for an opportunity to play with someone. So we gathered all the duet repertoire we could find that seemed sight readable-ish, and on 2 different occasions, we sight read through a whole bunch of duets. It was so fun. It was hilarious because, we made some funny mistakes, but it was actually really, really enjoyable. And I know some people enjoyed it. I assumed that if they got tired of the music, they could just go to another room to knit and chat. But we had such a good time with that, and it reminded me that I need to find a duet partner here to perform with. I have a fairly busy musical life already. I am playing for a festival next week. There are a couple of ensembles or other people that I play with professionally on a regular basis, but I would really love to have another local pianist that I could do some stuff with. And I know people, I can reach out. It's just a matter of doing it and planning a program. So anyway, that was a really, really fun thing. And hopefully if I get to go next year, we'll do it again and we can actually pick repertoire and practice it and be a little more organized with it than we were this time. So I was told by several people at that retreat that they have watched my videos on YouTube. And so, hello, I'm so glad you're here. And it was so wonderful to meet all of you. However, I know that if I am watching YouTube and somebody is going on and on about some in-person gathering or festival or retreat that they went to, that most of their viewers or none of their viewers went to either, maybe that's not very interesting. So I'm not going to go on and on and on about it, but it will come up as I talk about the different projects and yarns and things throughout this episode. So, let's see. I am not wearing anything knitted because we are in summer. We are officially in the armpit days of summer where it's humid, very warm. We actually had a heat wave last weekend that was really unpleasant. So, in Wisconsin, once it hits 80 degrees, it's usually 1,000,000% humidity and just feels like you're walking out into a swamp. And we don't like that, but that's how it is. Okay, I'm gonna look down at my notes to make sure you don't miss things. I did finish one project since my last video. I got these done just before I left for the retreat. I wanted a clean slate. So these are my Pride socks that I was very happy to finish during Pride month. They fit my feet, but they may go to somebody else if her foot size is the same as mine. So the colorway is called The First Pride Was a Riot, which is a great colorway name. And the yarn is BFL. It's officially they call it Breathtaking BFL. It's from Knitcircus yarns. It's 100% BFL, which is Blue Face Leicester. It's a breed specific yarn. It's superwash, it's fingering weight. There's no nylon in it, so these might not be as durable as a nylon blend, but they were sure really nice to knit with, and I think will feel very nice to wear. So this is what I have left. That's a fair chunk. This will go into my overstuffed bin of sock leftover yarn that I should really find ways to use up faster. But as you can see, it's like a speckled yarn that has every color you can think of in the rainbow and beyond, plus streaks of black here and there, and it was just really fun. It's so variegated, I don't think I would do anything but a plain sock or accessory with this yarn, but it was fun to knit with. I cast on 62 stitches with a size 1 needle. No pattern, I just, you know, sort of went with the typical formula I do for all my socks. So 1 by 1 rib cuff. For these, I did knit 1, purl 1, garter rib, continuing that column of knit stitches down the heel flap and gusset, all the way down to the toe. That's how I do a lot of my socks. Sometimes I don't do the garter rib and I opt for plain stockinette instead. That's even faster, but there you go. The sad news about Knitcircus is that they are closing. I got an email newsletter, I think it was early this week, announcing that the owner has just decided to move on to the next thing. She bought the business from the person who originally created it at the end of 2019. So at that time, there were a handful of employees. I don't remember exactly how many, 5 or 6 or so. So there was a whole team of people. They had a brick and mortar shop that was open. And that seemed like a great arrangement. And then of course, just 4 months later, COVID hit, everything changed. So in the last 5 years, even though she has done an absolutely admirable, amazing job of keeping the business running, she was able to support 2 of her employees through maternity leave. But as the effects of COVID have continued, and just sort of the economy of crafting in general has made it such that her staff eventually dwindled down to 1, just herself. And that's kind of a lonely and stressful place to be. So, so once she's done with the yarn she has in stock, she'll be closing and opening a different artistic based business. So I'm really glad she has a plan for what's next, but it is sad to see Knitcircus go. So, did that blow my admittedly weak resolution not to buy any more yarn for a while so that I could stock up on what's left? Yes, that did blow it out of the water, but we're not going to talk about that today. Okay, I have a great number of works in progress. Some of them were cast on during the retreat, in fact, but I will start with the things that weren't. I had that sweater project started out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft. I don't even have it with me at present because I haven't touched it since the last episode because I've started so many new things. So you'll get more of an update on that when I've actually worked on it. Second thing, this little scarf mini shawl thing. I made some progress on this, so I'll show you again. I haven't worked a ton on it because I didn't bring it with me. It's called Fractal Danger, and this is not a great picture, so I will insert one on one side or the other so you can see it better. And you're not going to be able to see the pattern very well in the yarn I'm using because it's all black and it's fuzzy. So I hope I don't make any mistakes because fixing them, ripping this out would be a pain. But it's a pattern by Martina Behm, German designer. And it is very meditative and easy. There are, I'm going to go through this section until I've used about half my yarn, and then there's some kind of direction change. So you end up with kind of a long, skinny, like imagine a very long, skinny croissant, and that's kind of the shape of this thing, which is perfect because you can wear it like a scarf. So it's basically garter stitch with eyelets every so often, obviously increases going along one side, and it's just my kind of thing. I love to admire fancy lace patterns, but I basically never knit them. I find it tedious. I find mistakes difficult, if not impossible to fix. And yeah, easy would you even call this lace? It's just eyelets every so often. Anyway, the yarn I'm using, it feels like an absolute dream to knit with. So I'm holding two things together that are lace weight, pitch black. This first one, this one that's caked up here, is Malabrigo lace. It's 100% baby merino, 470 yards for 50 grams. I got this when a yarn shop was closing. I didn't really know what to do with it. I just know that I liked it. So it's very fine, very delicate, single ply. And I am holding it with, I'll show you the unused skein, Lang Yarns Mohair Luxe Lame. So it's a mohair blend, mohair silk and a little bit of polyester. And I don't know if you can see, I think you can. There's a little bit of sparkle here. Not so much to be like tacky or ostentatious or something so, you know, in your face that I wouldn't wear it, but just enough to be a little bit elegant, I think. And this, I mean, it feels like knitting with air. It's so light, these two things together. Yeah. And the cool thing is that one skein of this lace weight Malabrigo is about the same yardage as two skeins of the mohair. And the pattern says to keep going with this section until you've used about half your yarn. So I'm just going to keep going until I run out of this skein. And then I will go on to the next part of the instructions. So that's what I got. It feels so nice to knit with. I am using, she calls for like way smaller needles than I would use, but to get a nice big open airy gauge, I'm using size 7 needles. So that's 4.5 millimeter. And these are Indian Lake Artisans wood needles made in Michigan, and they're very pointy, so they're very good for this kind of project. In my last episode, I had started a raindrops pullover for my younger niece, so I'm going to show you that because I've made some good progress on it. That was something I brought along to the retreat last weekend. I just got to find it. So, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that my brother has 2 young daughters and they live several states away, which makes me very sad because as their auntie, I wish I could see them more often. So I make up for that by making them lots and lots of knitted things, which they seem to enjoy. They're age 7 and 9, and the 7-year-old is very much into the color pink lately. So I am making her a pink sweater, and I have made quite a bit of progress on this. It took a couple of tries to get this started. So the pattern is a combination of 2 Tin Can Knits patterns. Raindrops, which is like a 10-year-old, like, you know, they published it 10 years ago. It's a basic tee pattern, and it's got this really cool eyelet feature on the yoke. So that's how the increases are done, is through these yarn overs, and it really does look like raindrops kind of disseminating down the yoke. The problem with that original pattern is that there was no neck shaping, and the neck itself is huge. You can tell from even their pattern pictures, but especially people's project pictures, it just looks huge. So I took their simple sweater pattern from the Basics collection that is much newer, and cast on the number of stitches required for the neckline, did some increases in short rows like instructed, before I moved on to the eyelet section of the yoke, which was my plan all along. The reason this took me a second try was because the first one, even though I had cast on fewer stitches, I used a size 3 needle. This is like between a fingering and a sport weight yarn, and that neck looked huge. And then when I went up a needle size for the rest of it, which you typically do, I typically use a smaller needle for the neckband than I do for the rest. The larger needle was creating, I think it had to do with the yarn overs, just making the fabric so loose that it looked like a clown collar or something. It just did not look good. And I talked about that in my last episode. So I started over went down yet another needle size for the neckband, went back, so I used size 2 for the neckband, size 4 for all the plain stockinette stuff, and a size 3 for this eyelet part, and I think that's going to come out very nicely. So I'm at about, I think, at the point where I need to do the bottom band, and I haven't decided if I'll do more garter stitch or ribbing or what exactly. I've kind of set it aside for a bit while I decide what to do, but it's going to be so cute on her. Let me show you the yarn I'm using. Here is a skein I haven't rolled into a ball yet. It's called Mojave and it's by Kelbourne Woolens. It is 60% cotton, 40% linen. So this is a great option for like lightweight knits, warm weather t-shirts, etc. It does say hand or machine wash, cold and dry flat. So it's not, I don't know what would happen if you would stick this in the dryer. I think my brother and his wife they don't mind, they say they don't even mind hand washing. I usually pick washable yarns when I make stuff for their kids, but I don't think they have any problem hanging stuff over a drying rack instead of throwing it into the dryer. So I think the washing thing will be okay. Because this is all plant fibers, I think that was why I was having the neck gaping issues and the huge eyelet section issue, because there's no elasticity and it's yarn that tends to stretch out and stay that way. But it feels really, really nice. It's very soft to the touch and I find it comfortable to knit with. I know that often plant fibers can be very hard on the hands because you have to grip it more tightly. You don't have any give. And pleasantly, happily, I have not had that issue with this yarn for the most part. Maybe a little more with the yarn over section, but it hasn't been a big problem. That said, I tend not to have too much of a problem with repetitive stress related to knitting. I think that might just partly be, an individual physiological thing. I also switch between projects a lot, so I'm not working with the same kind of yarn or the same size needles for many, many hours in a row. But anyway, I recommend the yarn, and I don't know if I recommend the pattern because I've had to mess with it so much, but I've really been enjoying this. I have a plan to make another one for her sister. Same yarn, different color, of course a little bit bigger size because my older niece is 9, so she's a little bigger. But this is the other color of Mojave that I have for that. So we'll see if I get them both done by the end of July. I will be seeing my whole family next month. If they're done, I will give them to them then. If not, I'll just wait and mail them later. Okay, let's get to, I did cast on a couple of projects at the retreat last weekend, and there were some reasons for that. One of them being that, well, it's just fun to cast on new projects, especially when you're surrounded by knitting friends. But another reason is that the Yarniacs themselves, this podcast, has for many years been doing a knit along called The Colors of Fall. So we call it a knit along. It's really a make along. So knit, crochet, weave, spin, all the fiber arts. And I've talked about this before, so I'll try to summarize this briefly. But the Colors of Fall knit along is a make along that takes place from the summer solstice, or the June solstice, because this applies to any part of the world, through the September equinox. So to qualify for, you can do whatever you want, but to qualify for prizes, you have to start and finish the project within that time frame. You have to use at least one color from the many options that are available in the Pantone fall, winter, and spring, summer palettes for both New York and London. So that's almost 60 colors total to choose from. And then you have to post a styled photo on the Ravelry forum. Or I think you can also use an Instagram hashtag. There is somebody who follows that. But it's fun to follow along. It's fun to see what projects people pick and how people are combining yarns and colors and stuff. It's fun to see how people put colors together because there's these different options and they change every year. And the cast-on day was Friday, June 20, because that was the summer solstice. So it happened to be during the retreat, and a lot of people were casting on projects on that day, and we got a group photo, and it was really fun. So I will show you the 2 projects that I cast on. The first one, and did I bring like 7 projects for the weekend, knowing I wouldn't get to all of them? Yes, indeed. So this first one, this is just really fun. I cast on a sweater. And this is what I've got so far. I really love the color work. It's been really fun. Kind of potato chippy. So I'm gonna hold it up so you can look at all the different colors and admire it. It is called Fernwood, and it's by Tania Barley, or Tania Barley. I don't know the correct pronunciation. She has several patterns that I have admired, and this is the first one I've knit. Obviously it's a top-down colorwork yoke pattern. And I am using Clara Parkes yarn. This is the 3.0. And I've talked about this before because this is my 3rd attempt to make a sweater out of this yarn. First attempt was years ago. I started knitting something that was like bottom up on really small needles, and I realized after I'd knit quite a bit of it that it was going to be way too stiff of a fabric and I needed to choose a different gauge. Last year, I think it might have been Colors of Fall last year. Anyway, last summer, I got really good start on the Garland sweater pattern by Stephanie Lutven, Telly B Knits. It's a great pattern. I really like it. Someday I would like to knit it. But despite my gauge swatch and all the information I have from the gauge swatch, when I knit the actual sweater, I was getting a much tighter gauge in the sweater than I did for the swatch. And I didn't realize it until I tried it on, and the whole thing was super, super tight. And the neckline was sticking out in this weird way, and it just was very disappointing. Again, not the pattern. Definitely it was an issue with my gauge being wrong. So I did, though, like the fabric that I was getting with that, so I ripped the whole thing out and just decided that I would look for another colorwork pattern that calls for the gauge I was getting. Enter Fernwood. So like I said, I am using Clara Parkes yarn. This is a CVM Romeldale blend. This dark brown color, which is a nice like French roast dark coffee color. And then I forget what this is called, but anyway, it's obviously of, you know, undyed. These are all undyed colors. Undyed cream color for the contrast. I do have, and I haven't decided for sure, where did it go? I haven't decided for sure if I will use it, but I have a 3rd color in bits and pieces. I think I had just bought 1 skein of it, and it's in small pieces because I had moth damage at one point and had knit something and ripped it out and knit it and ripped it out. But anyway, I've got this like very light tan color that goes, I think, quite beautifully with the rest, but I haven't decided, like, will I put this on the, you know, the bottom of the sleeves or some other place. The sweater pattern has color work that goes beyond the sleeve divide, so you know, it's all over the yoke and then a little bit past on the body and on the sleeves, which I really like. I think it's nice proportionally, because sometimes, especially, like, I know that I don't look like I'm a broad-shouldered person, but the way my body is proportioned, if I have too much emphasis on my shoulders, I do have kind of a mini linebacker profile, So I do like that the color work goes a little bit beyond that and just kind of helps, I don't know, distribute somehow. I don't know if I'm putting that very well. So I might incorporate this into that somehow, or I might just hang on to it for something else. But the yarn, you know, this yarn is so nice that I was determined to use it and determined to make it work. I didn't want to give up on it, even though I'd had 2 failed sweater attempts. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring this project specifically to cast on during the retreat is that the last sweater fail I had, I did complain about it on the forum online, and one of the lovely other Yarniacs saw that in addition to my worry about the fit, I also was concerned that I wasn't going to have enough of that brown yarn for the main color. She happened to have an extra skein she wasn't planning to use, and she just sent it to me without even me asking for it, which is very kind of her. Also, it means that I will definitely have enough to finish this project, and there were just so many nice connections with the Yarniacs that I decided to bring that along to the retreat to cast on. All right, my last work in progress is a pair of socks. And this was not even yarn that I brought along with me to the retreat. We stayed at this place that was about 1.5 miles from the downtown part of Racine. And there happens to be a yarn shop there. I think it's fairly new. I have not been able to find a website for it, although I believe they have like a Facebook group or Facebook site or something, but it's called Unraveled Creative Studio. And I think that our retreat made for a very good weekend of business for them, because at some point, just about everybody who attended made the trek up there. Those of us who did not mind walking in the heat walked there. And then, of course, some people drove. But anyway, they had a lot of really lovely things, including a variety of commercial yarns, some Wisconsin-based yarns. But they had a whole display of Wool Addicts sock yarn. If you've been watching me for at least a few months, you'll know that I have knit with that already. I got it somewhere else. I got a couple skeins somewhere else, and when I saw they had more in all these beautiful bright colors, I could not resist. So I bought 2 skeins of it, and I will show you the other one in a bit because I have more acquisitions to share. But one of them is this. So this is a yarn by Lang Yarns, and I don't remember the exact percentages, but it's 40-something% wool, 40-something% cotton, and then the rest is nylon. So it is a sock yarn, but because there's a lot of cotton in it, I think it would probably be good for transitional seasons or for when it's not so cold outside. I would think that the wool and the nylon keeps it bouncy enough. The socks I made are for somebody else and I gave them away, so I don't know how they've held up. But when we were in the shop and I saw that yarn and I couldn't resist picking out a couple of colors, I commented, "Oh, this makes really good socks. I've used it before." And several people ended up buying skeins of this yarn, and I kept hearing, "Oh, Susan said it was good for socks." So I hope that you all really like it. I really like knitting with it, and I love how the colors come out. So I decided I better cast on a pair of socks like right away so people could see how it looks knitted up. So here's the skein. Here's my sock so far. This is the first sock. And as you can see, there is quite a bit of yellow in it. And I feel like when you are looking at it from a distance, from the camera, what you see is yellow, blue, and red. So it's like Superman, basically. But if you look up close, actually all the colors of the rainbow are in there. You can really see it on the heel. Just about all the colors. I mean, there's red and orange. There is green in there with the blue. There's a little bit of purple mixed in. But it's interesting that from a distance, the most prominent colors are the yellow, obviously, and then the red and the blue. So anyway, it's fun. I don't mind. I like it. I just thought it was kind of funny that I thought I was buying rainbow sock yarn and it's looking a little different knit up. Because there is cotton in here, I am again doing my garter rib pattern. I hope this is like nice and stretchy and doesn't just end up sagging after a day of wear, but I feel like the garter rib helps counteract some of that inelasticity that you might get with the cotton. So that's my plan. And this has just been kind of easy knitting, you know, if I'm in a meeting or, you know, all those things where you need something that doesn't require a pattern or too much thought. That's the progress I'm making. So for now, these are going to be made to, I think I will make these for my feet and actually keep them because I do want to see how this wears, which will be good information for anybody else who wants to knit with the sock yarn, or for me as I am making things for other people. The last portion, I'm going to show you some acquisitions. I normally don't have an acquisition section in my YouTube videos. You know, they can be a little controversial. Sometimes it can be a little tone deaf to make whole videos showing you all the stuff that you have acquired and consumed when not everybody has the privilege of that. Or, you know, it can bring on a lot of judgment, right? So, plus sometimes I think it's a little bit tedious. I don't find it tedious to talk about projects and process and, you know, what I'm working on. It can be a little bit tedious to just like pick up skeins of yarn and show them, right? However, again, referring to the Yarniacs retreat, one of the things we did was they had like a whole destash. It was going to be a destash table, but many people brought so much yarn that it was a whole room, basically. So there was a destash for yarn that people didn't want, so you could like bring some, take some, whatever, no judgment. And then they also had finished objects. So there were quite a few people who brought sweaters and shawls and things like that that they didn't ever wear or didn't fit them or whatever. So both of those were just fair game. You know, you didn't have to bring yarn in order to take yarn home. I brought a whole big box of yarn to destash and I thought I should not bring any home. I have enough, I don't need more, but then I brought some home. I did at least come home with less than I went with. So there's that. So I will show you what I brought home because I had a lot of fun finding it. So this is not from the destash table. Actually, this is the other skein of the sock yarn Wool Addicts Footprints that I bought at the shop in Racine. This looks like it won't have such wide stripes as the pair that I'm working on now, but who can say? It'll be cool to see how it knits up. So as far as the destash table went, you know, I am trying to be more like, I'm so sick of the talk about being mindful with stash because, I don't know, it's just a little bit overused. But I was thinking like, I'm not going to pick up anything here unless it really is something that I can't find or that I know I will use or seems special somehow. So here's what I came home with. I came home with this really big ball of sock yarn. It's called Zauberball Stärke 6. So it's one of those magic balls or whatever in teal and black. So I expect this will create some kind of striping situation. It's what it looks like from the picture on the tag. It's a big ball of yarn too. It's 150 grams, 400 meters. So I think that's probably like sport weight, a little heavier than fingering weight. So this will make a nice fat pair of socks. And it just feels really nice and I was intrigued, so I picked it up. I also got, somebody was destashing a bunch of leftovers of Sonder yarn, which I've never tried. So I got, these are in bags. I'm just gonna pull it out. This must have been left over. Oh wait, this says blacker. Luster blend. Even better. That's really cool. This is pure new wool. It's pretty fine weight. I love doing fine weight colorwork projects. Okay, this is blacker yarn. This is Sonder yarn. This is unmarked, but it looks like it would go well with, you know, in terms of weight, 2-ply, you know, it's very similar. Here's another color of the Sonder yarn. Now these alone, like for color work, these darker colors would not go together so well, but here is a lighter color that I could use as contrast. And the other find, I got 2 partial skeins of this. This is Jacob undyed yarn from Bare Naked Wools. It says it's sport weight, but it looks really similar to the other ones that I picked up. So that's what I've got all together. I don't know exactly how I will combine these. I don't know exactly what projects I will make, but I love the feel of these. I love the weight of these, and I think that they will make some very nice mittens, maybe hats, definitely mittens, and other small projects like that. And it seems, I know Jacob is a durable yarn. We'll see about the rest, but I just couldn't resist the colors and the wools there. Last thing, somebody, and this is where I felt like a little bit of a yarn pig taking the whole thing, but somebody was destashing a bunch of Shibui linen. Now Shibui is no longer, I got something stuck on a tag here. Shibui like closed down. They are no longer making yarn. So anything you find is going to be like on clearance from somewhere. And I hope I like knitting with this. We will see. I tried knitting something out of a chunky linen chain yarn that I didn't like, but this is much finer weight. So I've got 4 skeins of this lime green color. It's a fine weight. It's linen, like I said, but it's a chainette construction. Don't know if it's showing up well. But I love this green, and I think it'll make a really nice summer tank or tee. And then there were like 8 skeins of the silver gray color. Maybe not as good of a color on me, but gray goes with everything, and I couldn't resist. I really want more summer tops. I only have one basically, and I enjoy wearing it, and I like the thought of being able to dress up a little bit. Plus, as I mentioned at the top of this episode, I am starting a new job next month. I don't have to dress super formally or professionally as far as I know. I do know because the person who will be supervising me was not dressed up at all in the interview. So I figure at least most of the time, I mean, unless I am, you know, speaking to an audience or something, I will probably not have to dress up a lot. But I like the idea of dressing up a little bit for work. I think that makes me feel like a professional. It makes me feel like a grown-up and makes me feel a little bit more confident. And if it's something that I have made for myself, all the better. Well, that's all I have to show you today. I don't know exactly when I will be back, but I do plan to keep recording, hopefully later this summer. So thanks for joining me. See you next time.